Once upon a time, I was a 36-year-old stay-at-home mom. The twins, Hallie and Zara, were 5, Maya was 2, and Jolie was 1.
Did she spit on me?
Needless to say, I didn't have time to do much more than drive the girls to preschool and soccer, cook, and load the dishwasher. But one evening, I was watching a 60-minute story about a life-saving, fortified peanut butter called Plumpy Nut, created by the French company Nutrition. It was miraculously treating children with severe malnutrition and literally saving lives. I was so moved by this story that in 2007, amid the chaos of life, I took a trip to East Africa, my father's homeland. What I saw was heartbreaking. I found myself in a hospital in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, witnessing the pain and despair of a mother who had just lost her child to malnutrition. I couldn't breathe. I learned that 5 million children under the age of 5 were dying every year from malnutrition. That's over 8,000 children dying every single day from something we know how to prevent. I felt the urgency of this crisis unfolding before my eyes, an overwhelming problem that I was in no way trained to solve. But what if those were my daughters? Children, no matter where in the world they are born, should have access to food and nutrition. But how? In 2009, I founded Edesia, a nonprofit social enterprise created with the mission to end malnutrition through the manufacturing of ready-to-use foods like Plumpy Nut. It didn't need to be mixed with water or refrigerated, 2 things lacking in the developing world. I liked how tangible and measurable the impact was. 1 box of Plumpy Nut could save 1 life. Now, with no manufacturing experience, I just needed to figure out how to make a lot of them. My first hire, Maria, and I started working out of my spare bedroom. She wrote grant proposals. I tried to find partners. We drew plans, hired a team, and purchased equipment. We met with the creators of Plumpy Nut in France, traveled to Niger to learn about the protocols, and created partnerships with UNICEF in Copenhagen, the World Food Program in Rome, and USAID in Washington, D.C. And finally, in 2010, we opened our doors. Each year, we reached more and more children, and Edesia kept growing. We started to automate. We bought robots, added packaging lines, and a test kitchen, a warehouse, an engineering team, and an R&D department. Our product line expanded, and our team grew from 2 to 110 employees from 28 countries around the world, working together 24 hours a day with the collective mission to treat and prevent malnutrition in the world's most vulnerable children. And now, we can make 1.5 million of these little packets every single day. In the last 10 years, our team has impacted over 12 million children across 57 countries. For the children of Yemen, Syria, Venezuela, Uganda, Sudan, and the United States, we make the food that saves lives. We cannot stop. We will not stop. We can end malnutrition.
Treat malnutrition in the world's most vulnerable children. So that means specifically 6-month-olds up to 5-year-olds in the developing world. So these are not countries like ours. These are countries that people live in extreme poverty, instability, civil conflict. So far, we have been able to reach 14 million children in 57 countries. And we do that through production of a special peanut paste. I'll get my sample out. It's a food medicine that we produce. So we are a factory. This was invented, this product, about 15 years ago in France. And it's now the World Health Organization's sanctioned treatment for kids that are severely malnourished. So we make over 1.5 million of these packets a day. In these packets, it contains peanuts, milk powder, vegetable oil, sugar, and vitamins and minerals, all ground into a paste, kind of a thick peanut butter, but one that's safe for young children to swallow. And when a child is diagnosed with having severe malnutrition, they'd be given 3 of these a day. They can be taken home and eaten at home, rather than the previous treatment, which had to be administered in the hospital. So this was a true groundbreaking treatment. And we're just so proud that Rhode Island is now the 2nd largest producer of these products in the world. So the way we work, humanitarian aid organizations like UNICEF, the World Food Program, our own government's aid, USAID, purchases these from us at cost, and then they distribute them to those 57 countries that we mentioned. I've been fortunate to go into the field. I've been to Sierra Leone, Uganda, to meet the wonderful families, the children that need this treatment. I've been able to participate in church services there, and it was a devastating experience in some regards, but also one filled with hope. It was extremely gratifying and surprising to me how much hope people in the most dire circumstances have, how hard they work. Even when the list of challenges they face every day is so long, they get up, they fight for their children, they worship, they celebrate. So I love working here, I love sharing the story, and let me know if you have questions. And thank you for having me. Sorry?
What's the name?
The name? So the trade name is Plumpy Nut, after the peanut butter. But RUTF is the generic name, and that means ready to use therapeutic food. So that just implies that you can tear open a packet, eat it right out of this sachet. You don't need clean water to mix it with. You don't need clean utensils. It's not perishable. So it makes it an excellent treatment for people in the far corners of the earth that don't have clean water, electricity, those kinds of things.
Yes. Could you mention some of the new products that now she's started to use?
Yes. So we, our founder Naven and our development team had a brilliant idea. Mostly, when you think about peanuts and young children, what do you think about? Allergies. Allergies to peanuts do not exist in the developing world. That is only something that happens in the industrialized nations, Western Europe, Australia, the United States, or North America. And a study came out about 6 years ago that said the best way to prevent nut allergies is to expose kids to nuts. And so the hypothesis is that we have overly sanitized our environment, and our bodies are losing the ability to react appropriately to certain stimuli, and peanuts is one of those things. So we thought, okay, this new study says little kids actually need to be exposed to peanuts. We don't have a peanut butter that in our country that's appropriate for little kids. They're all choking hazards. So we're experts at making peanut butter for young children, and we could finally help address a really severe public health problem here in the United States. And so a new product line was born for commercial use here in the US. And the thought was, we'll sell this at Dave's and Stop and Shop, Target, and it will be a for-profit product, but 100% of the proceeds will go back into our humanitarian work. Because while we fill orders for our products, sometimes a country, an organization will come to us, like Venezuela, and they will say, we have 5,000 children in this one region that have severe malnutrition. They're going to die if they don't get treatment, and we have no funding for that project. The new product line is helping to supply many shipping containers every year. So that's why we need donations. We need this new product line. We have corporate sponsors. So we've had to rebrand the product, but for a very happy reason. We have a new partnership, and I think it's starting tomorrow. It's going to be launched, so you guys have had the inside scoop, with Chobani. Chobani is now partnering with us We're a factory and we're really good at making peanut butter, but we don't know how to market things really, and we certainly don't know how to distribute them to Target. And so Chobani is taking on some of the consumer packaged goods role in helping us get this product out. Again, allowing us to keep 100% of the proceeds for our mission. So thank you for the question. Hopefully very soon you'll see this new product on the grocery store aisles. I'm not sure if it's going to be with the peanut butter or with the baby stuff. And it's actually not just for babies though. We have multiple flavors and sizes, some of which are for hungry adults like us. Thank you. Another question? Yes.
How do we donate?
Oh, well, we,
I have an uncle.
Oh, thank you so much, Helen. Would you like a job in our development team?
Since it's a non-profit, I didn't see any reason. It's, you know, how missions usually has a special offering and it flows through mission and then you give a check. Women's Fellowship doesn't quite work that way, and I thought, why do we need to collect the money? So you can just mail it directly to Edesia. If you want to do cash, then give it to me, and then I will process it or collect it together. I'm going to do it for a couple of weeks, but
Our website, which is just Edesia, maybe it's Edesia Nutrition actually, .org. But if you Google Edesia, you can donate directly on our website. Thank you so much for asking.
it's a little harder.
Yes.
What is the shelf life?
2 years. It's a 2-year shelf life.
And where do you source the peanuts?
The peanuts, all of our ingredients are from the United States. Our peanuts right now are coming from Texas and North Carolina. Sometimes Georgia as well, but right now Texas and North Carolina. It's delicious. In fact, the new product, you know, people dip pretzels in, you know, crackers. Oh yeah, it's great for breakfast. It's really good. The Chobani has flavors added to the peanut butter. So I think the one of the ones for babies is like a mango squash, and then there's a banana, which is really good. So it was called MeWe, Nutrition for Me and We, but Chobani is branding it differently. I think they're calling it Super Peanut Butter. The box is actually a little confusing. It's like Chobani peanut butter. But we're gonna keep the MeWe name because we started during COVID just making plain peanut butter for regular people like us and mostly school-age kids. So one way we found to give back to kids in the United States was adding peanut butter packets to lunch programs throughout Rhode Island, New York, California. So we'll keep the MeWe name as we continue to innovate. Our innovation program, we're constantly coming up with new products, new ideas. So yeah, we'll hold on to that name for now, but it's an evolving story. And we are giving tours now. So maybe at some point, if you'd like to have a group come in, I'd be happy to show you around the factory. It's state of the art, you saw in the video, cool robots, a lot of neat innovation.
Is it in Quonset?
It's in Quonset, exactly.
That was one of my questions, is what all do you do with the facility in Quonset?
So it is primarily a factory. We certainly have a lot of office space where we have, you know, the usual finance and tech and human resource departments. A big department is logistics and shipping, because you can imagine shipping to 57 different countries comes with a lot of complexities. What our products usually do, they're stacked on pallets, about 90 boxes high, and they are sent by shipping container to Port Elizabeth in New Jersey, and then they typically leave that port to head to their destination. I could tell you so many stories. If it were a rainy day, I would, about the journey these little packets have to endure. There can be crossfires that they have to navigate around. The rainy season washes out roads. It's a very complex set of skills you have to navigate to the far corners of the earth. where they go.
Is this the only location in the United States that you manufacture it at?
Yes, we are. This is our only facility. Yes. Yeah.
Does it increase in each country the number of packets that are sent? Like in Nigeria, for example,
The quantity,
the number of packets you send, is it increasing all the time?
well, so we are. Our manufacturing capability is increasing all the time. We hope ultimately that the demand for our product will go down but unfortunately COVID made the demand skyrocket, because when you think about all the social distancing we've had to do, there's a refugee camp I visited in northern Uganda that has 750,000 people living right on that border. Well, when you stop doing the feeding programs, you may remember from the video that we had a drone video, the food distribution sites where people are given a month's worth of rations. Well, when that goes away, you can only imagine the effect, especially on the children. I mean, for all the humans, it's tragic, but for the little ones, we really focus on them because from conception until the second birthday, that is the biggest growth the human body experiences, and they have no reserves. I mean, I could go a really long time without eating and be fine. These little kids, their brains, their bodies, they have to have the micronutrients and the macronutrients, just the calories. And when they don't, and if that is sustained, they will be permanently stunted. Their brains will not fully develop. And ultimately, we want to find sustainable solutions to hunger. But if we have an entire generation of kids that are malnourished, who haven't been able to fully have their brains develop and go to school, who are going to be the future leaders of those areas? Who's going to help bring these communities out of poverty? So our goal is to reach them, not just keep them alive, but allow their bodies to grow to their full potential so they are up to the challenge of moving their communities in the right direction.
Has this been used in communities of like people who need calories, need nutrition, but they can't eat for some reason or another, because like products like Ensure or Boost have big sales, but some people can't even endure that.
That's a great question. And that also was one of the reasons we came up with this domestic line, that MeWe line with Chobani. Because you're right, those shakes, if you have to have those all day long every day, that's not pleasant. I've seen my own family go through that. So that is our hope, that will be a part of that market. These packets are not appropriate for the US consumption because they have too much sugar and too much fat, which we don't need that. Those kids need that. And I cannot tell you, my first experience of visiting a clinic, my expectation, and I had a long plane trip to brace myself for what I was about to see with these young children, and I was envisioning children who were crying and in a great deal of pain, and in fact, the reality is, children that are starving are silent. They are motionless. They don't turn their heads to look at noises. They just sit and conserve everything. But the really cool thing is, the minute you give them nutrition, they come alive right before your eyes. And so you give them bites of the packet. Within 20 minutes, they're looking up more. They're squirming a little bit more in their mom's arms. They're reaching for it. When you visit the clinics, which usually meet once a week, the mothers travel to the clinic. The children are weighed and measured. They're also given education along the way in these multiple visits, these weekly visits, so that the moms are learning about other nutritional things that are going to be important in the child's recovery. And so you see the mothers lined up with the children, and I could start to very quickly pick out where the children were in their treatment. The children coming in for the first time, as I described, completely silent. The children that were halfway through their treatment were looking a little bit more alive, awake. They're looking around a lot. They're, pulling on their mom's hair. And then you'd see the few children that were about to be discharged. And those you just could barely catch. They're running around like toddlers and screaming and laughing and playing. So it's tragic to see what a starving child looks like, but it is miraculous what's possible when they're given basic nutrition and how quickly they do recover. And the average treatment on these packets is about 6 weeks. So in that time, they would go from being at risk, maybe for losing their lives, but certainly for being stunted, to being well-nourished, they're pronounced cured, and they're ready to resume a normal diet with their families.
Where are all these peanuts being grown?
It's really all US. There are other places in the world that have peanuts, but the US government, which is one of our biggest customers, understandably wants us to use US ingredients. And so Texas and North Carolina. It's a lot of peanuts. Yeah. Any other questions? These are great.
Can the shells be used for anything?
Wow, that is the first time I've ever been asked that. Can the shells be used for anything? That's a great question. I have no idea. That's your job. You come up with an idea for the shells. In fact, the peanuts as we buy them, they do come shelled and roasted. We do all the grinding, but I don't know what they do with the shells. That's an interesting question. Thank you. You've stumped me. Yes?
Do you ever have trouble getting the product to where it's designed to go, with governments that are maybe in upheaval or war-torn, do you worry about that it's not going to make it where it's supposed to go?
Okay, it's her fault that I'm going to have to tell you one of these shipping stories, but I'll make it really fast because it's a good one. Venezuela, you all have heard in the news over the past few years, just an economy that has collapsed, a ruthless dictator. But we had a wonderful Catholic organization there that was running a clinic for us. And we had a wonderful family foundation willing to pay for the entire shipping and for the product. But how do we get it there? Because Maduro, the head of this regime, was making a very public showing of burning all the foreign aid as it entered Venezuela. They brought in the cameras. They would light these entire shipping containers on fire that were holding food and medicine. And so our team, we don't get down to this specific level, but the team in Venezuela had a brilliant idea. There were 2 shipping channels being used in that country. One, where all the outside resources were coming from, the food aid, and then another one used by the regime for sending military supplies. So guess which one we used? We used the route with the military supplies. It was risky, but it worked, and we did it again and again. So there are so many stories of, I can hardly believe them. Like I said earlier, there can be civil conflicts breaking out right where the driver is driving. We've had a driver had to drop an entire container and run for his life. Luckily, he came back the next day. The container had not been tampered with. They loaded it back on and got to its destination. So we really have to have people on the ground there helping us with the logistics, because they'll say, nope, that road is washed out. Nope, that community isn't safe. And that information is changing all the time. So that is a huge part of what we do. But we get it done. Thank you. Question?
You had said that the government buys as a cost. Do you mind me asking, what is the cost of
Yeah,
this one?
no, absolutely. So this is 33 cents.
Wow.
Yeah. So with the boxes that you saw in the video, hold about 150 of these. And on average, that's about 1 full course of treatment for a child. That's about a 6-week supply. And so we say in our factory, $50 saves a life, because that's what it costs, both for the product, and that includes the shipping as well. $50. And I don't want to ever be too heavy in my statistics, but like Nathan said in the video, 8,000 kids are dying every day. And since COVID, it's really more like 11,000. When you look at the leading cause of death, or the cause of death on our planet for young children, half of them are because of malnutrition. Half. And it's not news. Nobody really talks about it because it's an old story and people don't want to know about it because I think that it feels hopeless. But I can tell you from being there in the field, it was really anything but. So, yes.
After their 6-week treatment, they're going to go back to the same condition. So what's going to prevent them from becoming malnourished again?
Great question. Did you all hear that? What happens next after their treatment? What keeps them from becoming malnourished again? It's a few things. One, it's education that's being given to the parents along the way. Sometimes what's happened is the child gets sick from something, let's say malaria. A local healer or another community member may give advice to the parents, something like stop feeding the child or only feed it this one food. So education is a big part of preventing relapse. There's also education given on hand washing, sanitary food preparation. They're also working against some cultural norms about who eats first in the family, because in some communities, the kids might be lower down on the totem pole. And in the lean season, before the harvests come in, when there's not much for everybody, the kids really might miss out entirely. So some of it's education, some of it's other training that, or other immunizations and treatment that the child might need. They're routinely given a round of antibiotics in case there was another thing contributing to them being malnourished. But the reality is they are going back to where they were, and that doesn't guarantee them 3 meals a day. But the hope is they are fully nourished, they're healthy, they're more resilient, their immune systems are working well, and they're better equipped to handle the challenges of food insecurity that will continue, but not to that extreme level, we hope. It's a great question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I hope I didn't talk too long. It was a pleasure being with you this morning.